to look back at the last Forge FC contest.
Simply stunning stuff!
And finally, their goal!
Here is Match and Review.
My word, what a rocket!
With Anthony Urcioli on the Forge Audio Network.
Hey, Forge fans, Anthony Urcioli here, your digital host. Focus on Forge. Back this week, we'll speak with CanPL.ca's Mitchell Tierney, and we'll recap Forge FC's 5-1 win over FC Edmonton. So much to talk about in that match. Some historic moments for Forge. We'll go through all of that. We'll recap the week, some of it, in the CPL and where Forge sits in the standings, and much more. So let's get at it. Let's bring him in. Mitchell Tierney from CanPL.ca joins us. He took in the Forge FC 5-1 win over FC Edmonton Tuesday night at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. You had a Becker Olympico from the corner. We had a Sissoko's first goal with Forge, and we had a Pasillas hat trick. All around good night for Forge FC, but they started kind of slow, I thought.
Yeah, they did. Again, another match against a side who really was sitting almost everyone behind the ball, was, really defensively good through the first little bit. I mean, Forge really, until obviously Rubens Pasillas opened the scoring, they had no shots on target. They had very limited chances. They were able to get the ball well into the final third, but weren't able to do much once they got to that area. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start, and obviously 11 days off. You can prepare as much as you want to for a match, but the intensity of a game is a little bit different. So, yes, it did take Forge some time, but they did something that they've done in recent matches, which is get that first goal. And then, when the side who's sitting back eventually has to open up, that, really has helped them through the last little stretch.
I thought the post game, for those who haven't heard, Edmonton coach Alan Koch came out in his post game press conference, and he last time they played in Hamilton, he had the line, it was men against boys, and we were the boys tonight. And after the last match, he said, we really didn't expect to win any games this season. So, any victory or anything is kind of we're going to take small victories here and there. You always want honesty in your coaches. I wonder, as a player, does that impact you at all? Does it sound kind of defeatist, or is he just being real, and do you appreciate the honesty?
I think he is telling the media and his players like different things. He mentions that as well, usually during his conversations, where if he's talking to his players, obviously he's never going to tell them this sort of thing, but then he's maybe a little more real and honest with the media about the situation that they're in as a club. So I mean, it's the way that he's been all season. We've seen them win 2 matches, so they have gotten that under their belt, and they've been playing much better in recent weeks, which in some ways is why this Forge match was such a shock, because this is arguably the worst game performance we've seen from them all season, at least in terms of the result.
Yeah, it's, when we look at the table now, and, with it just, it does look like now, and I know the Wanderers are kind of staying in it, and I think we've talked about this multiple times already, kind of teams separating themselves from the pack. Mm-hmm. When you look at the top 4 with Cavalry, Pacific, Atletico, and Forge, which would be your 4 playoff teams right now, is that pretty much what we're looking at? Like those 4 clubs kind of being in their own league, or do you think Valor has kind of an outside chance of surpassing one of those clubs?
It is still the midway point, so we do have a long way to go, but I do think Valor has an opportunity here. Obviously, they've won 3 on the trot, and they play a lot of games against these clubs in the top 4, starting tonight, Wednesday, against Atletico Ottawa, and then they travel to Forge. So obviously, those are both very difficult matches, but you get results in both of those games away from home, and all of a sudden, absolutely, Valor's right in that conversation. So it'll be interesting to see, but at the moment, like you said, there's probably a top 4, then Valor, then a bottom 3. So for a table that's been pretty congested for most of the season, it really is starting to separate a little bit.
I do look at Forge and with guys getting healthy and back in the lineup. We saw Dominic Samuel back in, Alex was back in, and Bobby's just, he's talking about the fact that they are getting healthier. And it's always a good problem to have if you're a coach when you have multiple players that can play in multiple positions. But at the same time, it does have to, if you're a player, especially when you don't have CONCACAF and all these other matchups, it seems like it'd be tough to just get into a rhythm with some of these guys. And I know Bobby's doing the best he can with giving guys minutes. He used all of his subs in that win against Edmonton. But it is tough when you have quality players sitting on the bench.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, obviously. You need those players to stay fresh and motivated and ready when they get their opportunities. And then at the same time, it presents some challenges in terms of staying in the moment and keeping confidence and that sort of thing, especially for, attacking players. It tends to be in terms of scoring. Obviously, we've seen Taron Campbell and maybe some of the difficulties he's had this season, but, he comes on against Edmonton and sure doesn't score, but is able to play his role very, very well. So I think there's a lot of more promising signs for Forge, honestly, as players come back, in terms of just having more options now and more different things they can do tactically during games with the different profiles of players. Pacius being different from Campbell, Chouanier, that sort of thing. They have a couple of different profiles of players, especially in attack, where if you're playing a side like Edmonton or like York, or honestly like most of the league this season that likes to play that more defensive style, it does benefit Forge to have players where they can really just shift a match by bringing them on.
It's, that Becker goal went viral. It's One Soccer put it out there, and it was, Bleacher Report Football got a hold of it, and a bunch of other services. We saw Valor go viral a couple weeks ago for maybe the wrong reasons, although Akio's fine, clearly. But it's interesting to see, because you look at the comments, and I don't advise looking through the comments, but sometimes you do get some good ones. And in this case, I think, the consensus seems to be like, where did this Canadian League come from? This coming from people from different parts of the world. They're like, wow, like that goal that Becker scored, for example. I mean, that's a world-class type of goal, and the quality is there. And it's nice because there does seem to be some momentum. That first season went as well as the CPL could have hoped for. COVID hits, the bubbles, and the momentum's kind of lost there. It does seem like this season it's catching on. Let's just say the CPL is turning a lot of heads around the world.
Yeah, I think it was almost the perfect storm that if a miss like that was going to happen, it did happen to William Akio, just because first off, he's a player who can handle it. He's an exemplary young man who obviously has confidence and is able to deal with that. But also, this is a player who, like, okay, he's now on to Ross County, who's at least a somewhat notable team in Scotland, and it's not like this is just a run of the mill player. This is obviously a star player. So once people start to look further into Akio, they can tell the qualities here. And yeah, I think maybe the biggest thing we've seen from the Canadian Premier League this year in terms of the quality is just the goals. I mean, you can talk about the Becker one, the Hajabrapor goal earlier in the season for Forge. Some of the goals Borges has scored, the Chouanier goal, and that's just Forge alone. So there's been some incredible individual goals this year, and the quality of the league, like you said, just continues to get better and better. And even just the depth that teams like Forge and Cavalry have at this point, that they're bringing players off the bench who would have been star players, and who in some cases were star players in this league just a few short seasons ago.
Yeah, I was on the sideline, and a police officer that was there, I saw him at halftime, and he said, wow, this is really good soccer. And I said, yeah. And he's like, I live out in Niagara, and I'm going to bring the wife and kids this weekend to the game. So everyone that's exposed to it seems to have a pretty favorable opinion. And a lot of people didn't know what to expect when they announced this Canadian Professional Soccer League. And I think it's exceeded some expectations, and the trajectory seems to be going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, another indicator of that is guys like Akio getting sold, and that is a next step for this league. And it's the players, it's the coaches, it's all these opportunities that didn't exist before. And we see Absy earlier in the year. There's going to be more. There's a lot of people now who have discovered the Canadian Premier League, and some of these players that you're seeing not just play for Forge, but coming to Tim Hortons Field and impress. Like, you aren't the only ones now as fans watching those and recognizing them. There are scouts throughout the world who are interested in these players. And you're going to start seeing them throughout Europe and, North America as well in the next little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitchell Tierney, the CanPL.ca podcast, the newsroom dropped this week. Preview of what the listeners can find when they download it.
I mean, of course, plenty of talk about Forge and FC Edmonton. York picked up a shock result over Cavalry, so we dive into their recent history as well and some of the transfers they've made. So, and some Canadian women's national team talk as well. Obviously, a big one for them at the W Championship. So, plenty of stuff as always over at the CanPL.ca newsroom.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find it there. Good stuff. Mitchell, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you, Mitchell. Forge FC back at it. Saturday, 4:30 start time. They are hosting Valor FC as Valor looks to get back into the playoff picture. Now, a lot to tell you about, because if you are planning to come to that match on Saturday, you're going to want to know there's a lot going on here. First of all, it's a Family Day match. So part of the Family Day pack, should you purchase tickets, you get 4 tickets to the match, 4 hot dog or pizza slices. You also get 4 drinks. And that's at $25 per person. So $25 a person, 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 drinks. It's $100 for that entire pack. So if you're thinking of bringing the family, great deal there for you. Also, you can meet the mascots before the match, including special guests from the Marvel Universe. Iron Man will be there, Spider-Man, Captain America. So plenty of fun for the kids and the adults that are into comic books. Also, complimentary freezies for kids 12 and under during pregame. That's 3:30 to 4:30. Inflatables and lawn games will be in the South Plaza before the match. And at halftime, you can win some great prizes there. As always, for the adults, $5 beers until kickoff. You may need some if you're going to bring the kids to the inflatables. Maybe get some beer in you to help the time pass. You can meet Forge players before the match as well in the South Plaza by the Stipley there. Following the final whistle, Families on the Pitch, presented by Tim Hortons. The entire family jump on that turf and get a feel for what the Forge players feel when they step on the pitch at Tim Hortons Field. Also, post-match candy giveaway. This is all in one match, by the way. This is all Saturday. Post-match candy giveaway, courtesy of Dare. So a lot of reasons to head on over to Tim Hortons Field on Saturday. Tickets available now online. Head on over to the official Forge FC website for more information and to grab your tickets. And remember, your phone is your ticket. So digital tickets. So much going on. I'll be there. Hope to see you there. Remember, keep it locked onto the Forge Audio Network. We'll have Behind the Beard. You'll hear from head coach Bobby Smirniotis this week. Before Saturday, also, you'll get the match day preview and 3 keys to the match. So a lot coming to you in a very short amount of time. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to the Forge Audio Network. Also subscribe on YouTube to make sure if you want the video side of things, there's always an audio and video component. If you want both, subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Anthony Urcioli and Focus on Forge. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to the Forge Audio Network.